January 2, 2026. Story 1. Zoran Mamdani was sworn in as New York City's mayor, the first Muslim, first South Asian, first African-born, and at 34 the youngest in generations. Attorney General Letitia James administered the oath at midnight in a decommissioned subway station. Bernie Sanders swore him in again publicly. Mamdani said, "I was elected as a Democratic Socialist and I will govern as a Democratic Socialist. We will answer to all New Yorkers, not to any billionaire or oligarch." He signed 3 housing executive orders and revoked all orders Adams issued after his federal indictment. Takeaway: revoking post-indictment orders on day 1 signals how he'll treat the previous administration's legitimacy. Watch the first 100 days. Story 2. The world's 500 richest people added a record $2.2 trillion to their fortunes in 2025. Meanwhile, ACA subsidy expiration will force 4.8 million people to drop coverage this year. At least 350 branded medications will see price increases, including vaccines and cancer treatments. Takeaway: 2.2 trillion gained at the top while 4.8 million lose coverage. If you depend on affected medications, check pricing now. Story 3. Minimum wage increased in 19 states, averaging 67 cents an hour. The federal minimum stayed at $7.25, unchanged for 16 years. Takeaway: state and federal policy continue diverging. Know which you're in. Story 4. Trump's Mar-a-Lago New Year's party featured a Jesus painting auction for $2.7 million. DHS Secretary Noam danced with Stephen Miller to Vanilla Ice. Netanyahu attended his 5th U.S. visit since the ICC arrest warrant. Takeaway: Netanyahu attending a U.S. party while under ICC warrant tells you how seriously the U.S. takes international law. Story 5. Another Palestinian infant died of exposure. A boy drowned in floods that inundated his family's tent. More cold weather is forecast. Israel's ban on 37 international NGOs including MSF took effect January 1. Aid groups, the UN, and at least 10 foreign ministers condemned the move. Takeaway: the NGO ban is now operational. The infrastructure to address exposure deaths was just removed. Story 6. Israeli forces flattened homes housing 100 Palestinian families in Nur Shams refugee camp, claiming they targeted resistance groups. Authorities approved 126 new settler housing units in a West Bank outpost evacuated in 2005. Takeaway: demolitions and settlement approvals happening simultaneously tells you the land policy. Story 7. Over 500,000 people marched across Istanbul demanding an end to Israel's genocide in Gaza. More than 400 organizations participated. Takeaway: 500,000 in one city is scaled at government's notice. Story 8. The U.S. struck at least 5 more boats, killing 8 people, 36 boats since September, no evidence provided. Russia asked the U.S. to stop pursuing a tanker now flying a Russian flag. Maduro said he's open to talks. Takeaway: Russia flagging a tanker creates a direct U.S.-Russia confrontation scenario. Whether the U.S. pursues that vessel tests willingness to escalate. Story 9. Russia accused Ukraine of killing 24 people in drone strikes on occupied Kherson. Zelensky said a peace deal is 90% ready, adding, "We want the end of the war, not the end of Ukraine. Those who think we're ready to surrender are deeply mistaken." Takeaway: 90% ready means the hardest 10% remains. The surrender framing tells you what's being asked. Story 10. Trump announced he's withdrawing National Guard from Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland, at least for now, a week after the Supreme Court blocked Chicago deployment. Takeaway: the court forced a retreat. For now means paused, not resolved. Story 11. ICE is spending $100 million on recruitment targeting gun rights supporters and military enthusiasts through influencers and geofenced ads at UFC fights, far-right podcasts, gun shows, and military bases. Takeaway: the recruitment profile tells you the culture they're building. Wartime framing for domestic enforcement is the language to note. Story 12. The administration froze federal childcare funding to all 50 states, demanding more verification, after cutting Minnesota based on a deceptively edited influencer video that Vance amplified. Takeaway: one deceptive video about one state became justification for freezing all states. Viral content to national policy with minimal evidence. Story 13. Iran protests continue, at least 7 killed. Trump warned on social media the U.S. is locked and loaded. Iran's president acknowledged the government bears responsibility, saying, "Do not blame America, it is we who must serve." Takeaway: the Iranian president accepting blame rather than deflecting is unusual. Trump's statement injects external threat into domestic unrest, which historically helps regimes consolidate. That's January 2, 2026.